Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by these great sponsors. Axon started out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. Imagine having 100 years of tire and wheel knowledge in your back pocket the next time you sell a piece of ag equipment. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit axontire.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Valley Transportation. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransinc.com for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. This podcast is also brought to you by AgDirect. No matter how you buy your ag equipment, from a dealer, auction, or a private party, AgDirect can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving Iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast, Boots on the Ground number 3. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. For information, go to axontire.com. Aaron.
Yes, sir.
Do you like a good pocket knife?
Not a bit.
Not a bit?
Not a bit.
Well, if you did.
I did,
you could go
tell
to,
me.
You could go to.
I'm on pins and needles.
You
Hurry.
could go over to Axon, right, and go to marketing at axontire.com, and you get a free, mind you, Alliance branded pocket knife to put in your pocket to walk around with.
Right on.
All the way through the month, this whole entire month, you can get a free
All of
knife.
February.
All of February. All you have to do is go to marketing at axontire.com, tell them you heard it on the Moving Iron Podcast, give them your details, and they'll mail one out to you.
Just think, if you're a loyal listener of this podcast, you have free gloves, you have a free knife.
Grain gauges, tire depth gauges. I mean, you have all kinds of stuff.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Next thing you know, we almost gave away a pair of free boots at one time when I was reading the reader.
That's true.
But
almost.
I caught myself.
Yes.
So if you're interested in a free pocket knife from Axon, go to marketing at axontire.com and they'll give you send one out to you. So check that out. Valley Transportation's also been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And no matter how you buy ag equipment, if it's from a dealer, an auction, or a private party, AgDirect can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com. So in this edition of Boots on the Ground, I got a longtime friend, guy that I've known for a long time in this industry.
He's an old hand in the industry.
He's been around, and the old Kansas boy actually started out kind of the same path that Aaron and I went down.
Yep.
All kind of worked through the same areas. So I got Stacy Anthony from AgRevolution, and they are the AGCO dealer out there in
God's country.
Where you at? Like Indiana, a little bit of Kentucky in that area, Stace? That's correct. Yep. All right. So Stacy Anthony has been in this industry. If you worked in the used equipment industry, you know Stacy Anthony for a long time. So Stacy, welcome to the show, and thanks for being on, man.
Well, thank you, Casey and Aaron. Appreciate it, and listen to your podcast frequently, and always appreciate the content and the value you guys bring to the industry. So thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate that, man. Thanks
you
a
bet.
lot. So Stace, give us a look. Let's just start like this. Just how'd you get started in the equipment business, and then how'd you get to where you're at now?
Well, it's a simple story. I grew up on a farm and a ranch in Southwest Kansas. Started out in the sales side of the business, and as you continue to grow up inside of that side of the business, I had an opportunity as consolidation started to develop. First went on with a management job at KJAN out in the Colorado locations and spent some years out there, and then had an opportunity to become a minority part owner of a John Deere dealership in Northwest Kansas, up around Oakley, Kansas, and spent about 10 years up there. And as things continue to migrate and develop in consolidation, one thing led to next to another, and spent some time at 21st Century, and got used to Western Nebraska and part of that country, and later found myself working inside the Brandt Holdings Company out of Fargo, North Dakota. And my main job there was to help start and develop and organize the export division that soon grew to be exporting in about 27 countries. And spent about 12 years there before I accepted a CEO position of Mirtech Harvest Center down in the Delta, down in Memphis, Tennessee, where we did a kind of a startup rebuild of some Kloss dealerships there in that area. And you know how it goes. One thing always leads to another. But during a I guess an exploratory project to see what else we could add to our current line there, ran onto some AGCO guys and really began to dig in and try to understand where they're headed with their new ideas and their new vision and their new leadership, and became quite familiar with the Fendt brand. And we had some like-kind chemistry that led us to an opportunity when that opportunity arose here in Kentucky and Indiana to do a startup company with AgRevolution. We stood up 6 dealerships last January 1, and soon we'll be growing and adding some more. But this is it's been a good first year. We've got a really good team of people, and we're working hard to develop the full portfolio of AGCO products, but primary focus on Fendt.
It's amazing that this industry is such a small world. So I worked. I didn't realize you worked at KJM. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That's a whole nother loop there of intertwinedness. But I worked with a guy at Prairieland. He was our VP of aftermarket, or not VP aftermarket. He was I don't remember his exact title, but he worked in aftermarket. And his name is Benny Ray, and he worked with you up at Brandt Holdings. And so it's just like a small world. You don't realize how intricate things are in this business until you actually sit down and start having conversations with people about where they've been at, what they've done. So it's it's interesting to hear that background, Stacy.
Yeah, well, guys like Benny, guys like you too. I mean, when you think about how small it is, there's just been a lot of good forged friendships along the way. And even though some of us, at one time were aligned, sometimes now we're competitors. At the end of the day, we're all friends, and that's what makes this thing fun.
That's exactly
right. Absolutely. The people side of it of the used equipment world is fantastic.
That's the funnest part of it.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. So on the last Moving Iron podcast, Sarah and I did, we kind of went down and started talking about how things were moving in the market and those kind of things and what we saw happening. I've laid out a few predictions of kind of what I see happening out there, and after we get done recording, there's always about another, 2.5 hours worth of material that flows in my brain after I stop recording. But there's
per day.
The one thing that I really kind of was thinking a lot about is, take a look at the plan. We talked about planters for a while and how they never quite rebounded and to a quote unquote problem. 14, 15, 16 auctioned all those off and kind of dumped the market, and as the economy kind of was bouncing back up to where it is today, the planter market never really had a big leap forward, to get more planters built and purchased and those kind of things. And we're going to start seeing that now as, commodity prices come up. We're going to see more and more planters built, but the trade-ins right behind all those are pretty much sold on that all the way across there. So, I mean, Stace, as you take a look what's going on out there around you, what's the planter market like out where you're out there in that your little neck of the woods, and what are you doing different today than you were doing 6 months ago as you take a look at that marketplace?
Well, specifically related to planters, in our startup company, we were a little bit unique because we didn't buy any used inventory from the seller, and so therefore we started with 0 used inventory. And there was a day when we all would have really liked to have been in that spot.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Stacy. I'm thinking for most of the 15 years on this side of the fence, that's a great problem to have, but it also really sucks.
It does right now for sure. And so, basically, we started selling new. Of course, we sold a few new Fendt Momentum planters, traded in some used ones. Of course, they were sold right away. And right now, we're looking and we're starving for planters. And because we're such limited right now in what we can get access to for this next 12 to 24 months of new planters, we're trying to buy planters and we're trying to buy tractors and we're trying to buy a lot of different things. But right now, that market is pretty stout, and you've got to be really careful in the choices you make so that you don't get upside down in what you buy and what you sell it for. So planters right now, there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of demand for all ages, mostly newer, though, I would say, fresh, clean, newer planters. Some want to put some precision applications on there. Some want to cater them to their own desires, their own needs. But there's a hungry appetite for planters right now for upgrades. And unfortunately, we're just not able to supply all that demand.
When you look at, say, your customers right now, you talked about the technology side of that, and how many customers do you have that are trying to move from older technology into newer technology, and how many do you have that are saying, you know what, I'm pretty happy with the way we're going, and I'm going to keep the same planter base that I've always had?
Casey, I think honestly, 85% of our customers want to step up to some type of technology or advance where they are into another level of technology. And I just don't see that going away.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at some of the results of some of this improved technology on these planting units, and it all begins there, people realize that, and I just don't see that fading.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's more and more people, especially after going past this last 5-year kind of downturn in the market, a lot of guys are looking at everything they have, whether it's tractors, combines, whatever it is. They're looking for more technology in whatever they're buying.
Yeah, it's if you've got a standard stock Harley Davidson right now, you want a 26-inch front wheel, the M8 117 engine, and the same way with the planter.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants a stock planter anymore. So
that's exactly right. Yeah, and stock planter anymore is getting to be a pretty heavily technologically loaded machine anyway.
Oh yeah,
just the base level machine.
Yeah, a stock planter now is way advanced compared to a 7300 on the green side.
Yep.
And that's something with like Stacy's 85%. Mm-hmm. That is something I remember, man, it would have been 30s traded in on the first R's.
Right.
We tried that, trade the receiver, trade the display,
right.
leave it in the tractor, all that. And we pulled that off for like a couple months, and then everybody, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Now guys are upset if it doesn't have premium activation in the armrest and this and that, and then I need an extend monitor and I need this. And
yeah, it's amazing how much that's changed.
Yeah, in 10 years, you couldn't talk guys into swapping receivers and displays. And now, thanks to manufacturers basically impregnating it into the machine, that's the only way they'll go.
Right. Impregnating, that's nice. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah,
that's what hit my head first. So, hashtag no filter.
As you look at what's going on there, I mean, like you said, you guys are a startup company. You got the Fent line that you're carrying. When you're looking at the openness of a new brand coming in to the area, what's been your response to the customers that you've worked with as to hey, welcoming a new quote unquote vendor back into the territory there? Because it's not like there wasn't an AGCO dealer there beforehand. That was I'm trying to remember who that would have been.
Yeah, Boyd Cat and Wayne
Boyd,
Supply.
that's right. Yeah, those guys in there. So that had been an established venture there for a while. But I guess as you come in with a brand new line, really, I mean, what's been your response to the customer base you're working with?
Well, I think underneath the Boyd Cat umbrella, most everything was yellow and Challenger and how all that aligned with cat dealers, right? And so now that they see a transition going on, they see a lot of it going Fent green. People are intrigued about what's different about it. And I think, like in any market, you get your early adopters who are saying, you know what, I want to take a look. Let me peek in the window. Let me have a demo, and they want to try to check it out and see what's different about it. And then you got the other guys who are just tried and true, blue, green, yellow, whatever they are, and they don't really have an interest in it right now, So what you do is you end up focusing around those early adopters where you can kind of get your foot planted and get some experience and get some showstoppers going on. And that's what we've done. I mean, I think we had the most availability with tractors, and we got started first of all with our tractor line, the 900 series and some of the 1000 series Fents, and we started off pretty good. And the people have had experiences with those tractors, have ran them, and they're well pleased. And then we started moving into the Momentum planter and testing that and doing some trial tests and field tests, and that started to go over pretty good. So we started selling a few of them, and then the Ideal Combine was introduced, and we started doing some field demonstrations in wheat, and then moved on into the fall season and had a good run on selling some combines there with Fendt Ideal. So, there's a lot of this product line, and now we're coming out with the new sprayer. It got introduced, the new R9, and so with all of its future capabilities and things like that. So the brand is starting to increase in portfolio. It's starting to widen, and we understand that probably the value of that brand needs to have a wider portfolio, because at the end of the day, there's some guys who will just buy one or two, but there's still a mud mentality out there, right? And if you're going to compete with the market leaders, and we all know who the market leaders are, you're going to have to be able at some point in time compete in that mud program.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
In that case, that leads me to my next question, just as a general topic conversation here. What are you seeing out there in your neck of the woods right now with retirements and consolidation, on-farm consolidation, those kind of things? Are you seeing quite a bit of that now with some guys that are probably were going to retire 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that, and then the economy kind of turned down, so equity positions, those kind of things were questionable, and now they've kind of gained that back. Are you seeing any kind of a retirement move out your way where some of the younger generations are getting a little bit bigger or taking over the farm? I guess. So what are you seeing as far as that goes?
We're seeing a little bit of both. Not a lot right now, but we're seeing two things. One, where there is a couple of younger generation coming in and taking over current operations, but we've also seen a couple that have just said, "Hey, you know what? I don't have anybody else to take it over," and so the neighbor or whatever has went in there and either increased his size by a third or half or double or more, and so we've got a little bit of both going on. But I wouldn't say it's a large amount. It's still pretty managed, and probably not as much as it is in other locations.
When you're looking at various technologies, when you're starting to see guys and how they approach their buying trade cycles and those kind of things, how much of that have you seen from comparatively to where you started at, when you first started the business to where you're at now? How much have you noticed in trade cycles? How much of that have you seen change over the years?
Well, I think we see the businessman, right? I mean, we've got some guys who just kind of trade whenever they feel like they need it, but we're starting to see more of the businessman start to service. The guy who's really starting to say, hey, he's calculating his equity, he's calculating his operational cost, he's calculating the cost of doing business. There's a lot wider, I think, breadth of people who actually know what it takes to grow a crop nowadays, and they know what their break-evens are, and they're becoming more business-minded. And so we're starting to see that become a lot of the conversation that we're having as we begin to talk about trade cycles.
When you're working with your customers, and again, farther back from where you started to where you're at now, I mean, just the amount of data that we're pulling off these machines now and putting that into not only just agronomic decision making, but do you need the size of tractor that you have? What's it look like if you were to just turn the key off every once in a while and not have so many idle hours, those kind of things? How are you having those conversations with your customer, and what's that looking like?
Well, I think it's based around utilization, and there is a lot more conversations around utilization. I mean, before it was just, I need a tractor to do this job, one to do that job, but now it's more about multi-use. And I think we're really going to start having some interesting conversations right here in the very near future when we start talking about autonomy, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
I don't even know. We're trying to really forecast and predict what does that look like. Does that smaller units, more of them, 24/7? I don't know what that exactly looks like. But right now, we're all about size and scale and utilization and big horsepower still sales. And but that could change in the future.
Yeah, that you bring up a good point with the autonomous tractor thing. I mean, I think about that. I have about a 40-minute drive home, and that idea of autonomy comes across my mind a lot more times than it doesn't. And what's that look like, and how is that going to change the way not only customers buy machinery, but how the way we sell used equipment and what that looks like, and how that whole thing kind of smashes together. Because I am a firm believer that when autonomous tractors come around, the idea of a yearly roll and those kind of things, especially as machines get smaller, and whether or not electric tractors and all those kind of things make their way into it. The one thing about the autonomous side of it, there's a lot of factors that in a piece of equipment that kind of go away. There's a lot less things on there that, other than the specific powertrains, that you have to worry about. So you're really starting to look at what's the technology on the machine versus what the horsepower rating is and those kind of things. It really is kind of a brave new world of sorts that you have to step back and take a look at of how many machines is a guy going to use, and then how functionally long are they going to use those machines before they decide they want to do something else with them.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think it's all going to come down to the economics of the size of that machine and how many they need and how many they'll utilize. So it's going to be interesting, but it'll come down to an economic decision, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Just think, guys, they were having this same discussion 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, true point.
We're never getting away from horses.
Yeah. That's a good point, because that's exactly right. I mean, you read so many of those things about we're never going to get rid of a horse, decide to have a tractor, stupid.
My first boss traded for horses.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when you were working for him?
No, God, no, man. Heavens. No. When he started out, he was an older guy at that point, and it, just like Kenny's old boss too.
I'm sure Kenny traded for horses.
No, it's
Kenny.
the guy Kenny worked for.
Oh, wow.
Because me and Kenny sat in the same office. No joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, he would tell me in high school he'd start selling and he'd go sell cream separators, and that kind of thing. But he used to tell me they had it just kind of a X amount, and they had a buyer in St. Louis that they'd get them down to St. Louis and they'd ship them down the Mississippi. Yeah. Trade for horses all day, every day.
Put them on a boat to Ukraine.
Yeah, there you go.
They would.
We got this new agriculture project in Ghana.
Yeah, that's funny. They had but another thing too on this whole technology side of that, 2020, 22 years ago, they were having the same conversation about,
Auto steer.
RTK and auto steer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's, when Dirk rolled out their autonomous tractor thing, and you've seen the Smart Ag deal, and you've got the
Case IH, their farm show display for years.
What's that other one? Dot.
Yeah, Dot.
Dot and those kind of things. I mean, if you read the comments in that, people are just like, this is never going to really. I mean, it doesn't really have a place, and blah blah
Right.
blah. Same conversations you heard so many years ago. I mean, Stacy, when you're looking at technology adopters in your area, I mean, is it still pretty much that same rule? You got that 20% that are hardcore technologists, and they want to have the latest and greatest thing out there, and then you've got this 60% somewhere in the middle, and then you've got this other 20% that still wishes they could plant without any kind of guidance. I mean, is that pretty synonymous with your area?
I'd say it is. I was just thinking back about your earlier conversation. I mean, can you remember when we thought technology was an AccuTrack 3-point guidance system or a navigator back in the day?
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah. We thought that was the cutting edge of technology back then. It was back then, right?
Right. Yeah.
But now we've migrated to all this. And I would say, Casey, to answer your question, I would say that probably, that 20 might even be starting to grow. I think that's going to start to grow where those cutting edge guys are really going to start to increase to maybe even 30, 35 here in the next few years to come. But your 20, 60, 20 right now is pretty close.
All right. So to kind of wrap this up, Stace, I guess as you take a look at what's going on around you, what are 2 or 3 things that you really have on your radar as stuff that you're paying attention to from a point of concern? And then what are a couple things that you're looking at that you're on your radar that are a very positive thing that you're going to go out and try to grow and expand?
Well, we're going to try to go out and grow and expand just the visibility and awareness of what our product line can do, what it's here to compete with, how it can compete. We're going to continue to work really hard on getting the word out on the product and the image and the demonstration and the performance of it. The things we're concerned is most like what everybody else is concerned about. But I think, I'm most concerned this year, honestly, and I think it could be a very difficult year for some dealers because I think this year is going to be more challenging than last year when it comes to, availability. I think the fracturing of the supply chain went much deeper than we all thought it did.
Absolutely agree.
The fact that, we thought by now, looking back this in 2020, we'd be through it and over it by now. And I think we still maybe haven't even hit bottom yet. And hopefully what we see as bottom is, maybe the beginning of 23 and probably more into 24, and that's a little bit disturbing. I think what we see this year, supply chain still struggles, is that, you know what, we're really going to have to start to forecast and skate in front of that puck a lot further than we ever thought we'd have to. And when you start thinking about planning your order calendar 12 months out, okay, we were all pretty used to that. 24 and 36, that's a challenge, and that's a concern, because right now what's going to happen is a lot of these tractors and planters are going to miss the delivery dates for this spring, are going to slide into this summer, this fall. Then you're going to ask yourself the question, okay, is the customer still going to take that? And if the question is, well, yeah, I'm going to take it because I don't see supply getting any better, now you're going to have to ask yourself, well, what are we going to do about the financing part of it? Because we got to somehow align with the cash flow stream of these guys still, but we're off wonky here a little bit, right? I mean, we've got deliveries in October, and if you put a payment 6 months from now and he's making a down payment, well, that could be cash strenuous. And then if you say, okay, well, you don't want it coming due 12 months from now because that's right at harvest time, now you're going to be having conversations with your finance companies or whatever about an 18-month first pay. And I think that's something we've all got to kind of be ready for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Big time.
That's something I really have not given any thought to, and that's exactly right. How all that stuff aligns up with what's going on, because like you said, that cash flow thing is so important when it comes time for payment time. You know what I mean? It makes a big crunch on that stuff. So, well, Aaron, you got anything else you want to throw in before we shut down?
I don't think so. I want to thank Stacy for being on. It was terrific information.
All right. Yep. Good stuff. Stacy, folks want to reach out to you and get more information about AgRevolution, or just what's the best way to get a hold of you and see what's going on over there at AgRevolution?
Well, they can visit our website at agrev.com. They can always call me at 770-617-4631. We'd be glad to connect with them there, and appreciate both of you giving me an opportunity to be on your show today, and thank you for what you do and what you continue to do each and every day.
I appreciate that, Stacy. It's good to catch up, man. It's been a while. It's been too long, man. We got to keep better in touch with each other.
Let's do that. I'll promise to do the same.
All right, on, man. Well, I am Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you find the latest editions on the Moving Iron Podcast. You can also go to MovingIronLLC.com, and you can find everything Moving Iron related. Also go to the website there to find all the information for the Moving Iron Summit coming up in Nashville, Tennessee. Stacy, you've been to that, going to that for a while. What's your thoughts about going to that Moving Iron Summit?
I think it's well worth the time. I think the content just continues to get better and better. The relationships, the networking. I plan on going. I won't miss it.
Right on. Aaron, folks want to reach out to you. What's the best way to do that?
Call me or text me, 308-760-1193. Also pretty active on the old ag Twitter at AARonFintel, and also on the Book of Faces.
Right on. I am Casey Seymour with Aaron Fennell and Stacy Anthony. Let's go out and move some iron, folks. Out. Axon Tire is going to have more tips, tricks, and client advice throughout the year, and in September at the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville. If you're looking to sign up for the event, please head over to MovingIronLLC.com. We hope to see you there. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransitinc.com for all of your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And no matter how you buy ag equipment from a dealer, auction, or a private party, AgDirect can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.